guys, it's Jess from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a fun video that I was inspired to do because of Laura from Lovely Like Laura. This is the wildest romances I've ever read. She did a video like this. I didn't watch it yet because I didn't want to copy any of her books unintentionally or get those stuck in my head and not be able to think of other ones, but these are romances, whether good or bad, that I have read that were a little bit wild. So they had really great plot twists or cliffhangers or characters or surprises that I don't really find in my romances, and some of these are good and some of these are a bad kind of wild, so I will let you know if it was a good or a bad surprise when I was reading them. I do want to say my shirt is from Outlander, so it's like their motto. It doesn't say Jesus. I went to my parents' house and my dad asked and my sweatshirt said Jesus on it. It doesn't. It's the Outlander like whole thing. It's French. I can't pronounce it, but it's my Outlander sweatshirt. But I think the first book on here, I have to get the obvious out of the way. The first book I want to talk about is definitely Credence by Penelope Douglas. This, I think, it was very polarizing because it was too wild for some people. Our main character goes to live with a step uncle because her parents commit suicide together because her mother has cancer and her father doesn't want to live without her, so they end their lives, and she is an orphan now. She's 17, so she goes to live with a step uncle in the middle of the woods that she's never met before, and it like gets snowed in, so they get like snowed in the mountains for months, and she has relations with all three of them. So, and it's like, oh, who she's gonna end up with, we don't even know until the end. So it was a wild ride, to say the least, and some people it was too much out of their comfort zone. I ended up giving it 4 stars. The story itself probably 3, but I really loved the writing and the storytelling, so I gave it a 4, and I didn't like who she ended up with, and that's really what hindered my enjoyment, but it was still fun and I think a surprise to all of us. Next I have Whiteout by Adriana Anders. This one I don't see anybody talking about, but that's because it is a romantic suspense, and I feel like not a lot of people read romantic suspense traditionally published, and so this is about a guy who is a researcher at this camp in Antarctica, and the woman is the chef there, and she is literally leaving that day, and she kind of always has liked the guy. He's like silent and brooding and really just sticks to his work. And what happens is these bad guys come in when everybody's leaving, and she was supposed to be on that plane, and they are trying to steal something that they found and are sabotaging the rest of the camp and killing people, and she kind of like gets stuck somewhere seeing them, so she misses the flight out, and the doctor realizes what's happening, so her and the doctor are the only ones left there, minus the bad guys, and so they have to like trek their way across Antarctica to the next camp and the bad guys are chasing them, and it's crazy. I really wanted an Antarctica survival story because of a different book on this list, and that author recommended to me this book, and it was really good, really action-packed, really crazy because they're literally gonna die if they don't get out of their situation, so I really enjoyed this one. The book that inspired that book selection is the Kingmaker duet. I think it's All the King's Men duet, actually, with the Kingmaker and the Rebel King. Out of these two, I will definitely say the first one was definitely wilder than the second one, especially because of the cliffhanger in this one. But in this book, we have our main characters meet when they are young. So our main character is, I think, 16, and she's protesting a pipeline on native land because she is half Native American. And our love interest is the son of the owner of the company putting the pipelines in, and he never agrees with his father, and so he meets her and they both get thrown in jail at the protest. And she's too young for him though then, so then they meet later, and then they meet later, and it's like a whole long romance, and it's never like the right time for them to be together. He does go research in Antarctica, and that's a wild ride, and then she does go somewhere else. I forget where she goes, but she travels somewhere and things happen, and that's a wild ride, and there's a really good cliffhanger in here, and so things go not how you expect. Kept me on the edge of my seat. I loved this duet. It really surprised me, and because of that Antarctica scene, I was like, I really want more like that. Like Mount Everest kind of romances. Like, are there any romances that take place on Mount Everest? Because I was obsessed with Mount Everest when I was in elementary school because I was reading that Everest series, and it's by that author who also wrote the Island series. I loved those, and so I think I would love a romance that's like mountain climbing, like Cliffhanger with Sylvester Stallone. Like, I need that kind of high intensity romance. So if you have recommendations, let me know. Next is the Born Darkly duet. We have Born Darkly and Born Madly by Trisha Wolfe. I always forget because there's also Tracy Wolfe and I get them confused, but this is Trisha Wolfe. These are romances between the psychologist, and the serial killer patient. So she meets with him and she has to determine whether he is like sane or not for the courts, and he ends up really toying with her and she falls for him, and it's like, is she really gonna put her whole entire career on the line for this guy that could just be playing mind games with her, because that's like what psychopaths do. So it's definitely keeping me on the edge of my seat throughout all of these. And I really love this, kind of like Harley Quinn Joker, but it was good. I read the first one, I think, in a day because I couldn't put it down. So if you want that kind of relationship that's kind of wild, pick this duet up. The next wild is kind of in a negative way, and that is Jessa Kane. I've only read 2 Jessa Kane books and she does some wild things in her book. So the one I want to talk about is Sacrifice to the Beast, and this one is this girl, and it takes place in modern times. From the premise, I was like, oh, so it takes place like a while ago. No, it's a modern time. They think there's this like beast that's terrorizing their town, so they sacrifice a virgin and tie her up for this beast so he can go away. And so this girl ends up being sacrificed, and it ends up being this like this guy who's just living in the woods, and who's been living in the woods his whole life and like doesn't know about anything. So she ends up like fallen in love with him, and I'm just like, what am I reading? And of course it's Jessa Kane, so things get pretty steamy, and it was very over the top and ridiculous to me, and yeah, that's not my kind of wild, but people love Jessa Kane. So if you want something fun and out there and quick, check her out. But I kind of have given up on Jessa Kane after the 2 that I've read, so yeah. Next one's a beloved series of mine because of how wild it gets, and that's Planet Barbarians. This one, I don't know how Ruby Dixon came up with this idea, but we have these girls who all get kidnapped by aliens, and they are, I mean, they're treated horribly, and there are trigger warnings for rape because some of them do get sexually assaulted by the aliens, but the aliens crash land on this ice planet, and the girls end up being rescued by these blue aliens, and they are mating with them. So in order to survive on the planet, you have to have this key that implanted in you, which is like this vibrating like little worm thing, and it vibrates when you're mating with someone. So it is fated mates, and so when they see their mate, they're like, well, we have to consummate this relationship or else our queen is just gonna go crazy and we're not gonna be happy. So every book is fated mates, and so they are all pairing off, and then they're like, well, I don't know if I want to mate, but then some of them kind of want to mate because they're stuck on this place and they want someone to like be with, and so it's really good. The aliens aren't like too alien, so they do have like velvety blue skin, and they might have horns, I don't remember, and I think they have tails, I don't remember. It wasn't too weird. It was like, I kind of sometimes forgot I was reading about aliens, but it was really fun. I listened to them on audio, and they're a wild ride because then they're with like alien creatures, and like, it's really fun. The next one I have is From Blood and Nash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This one is mostly because of the last 200 pages. A lot of this is build up, and I really enjoyed the story, but then once we got to the plot twist and things started being revealed, the last 200 pages I think I read in like an hour and a half. I just flew through them, and things were getting crazy, and there are a lot of secrets about the different kind of species, I guess, in this book, because there are different kinds of vampires, and there's werewolves, and different varieties of vampires that are really hard to explain. I did do a live show with my Ravished by Romance book club with Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers, and we kind of talked about all the different kind of species they had and like everything that was being uncovered, and then like by the end you're like, well, I need book 2 now because I need some answers, because things went wild at the end of this book, and I absolutely loved it. Book 2 actually comes out in September, so I'm very excited for that. Our main character in here is like a prized maiden, and so she has always been locked up in her castle because she's waiting her ascension, whatever that is, and she kind of sneaks out and has a sort of kind of one night fling with this gorgeous guard that's new to the palace, and it turns out he ends up replacing one of her guards, so he is her personal guard, and she obviously kind of has feelings for him, and it goes from there. Things went wild. So I really love this. Edge of your seat, really unique for a vampire romance, I think, so I'm really excited. There's a lot left unexplained though, so I need book 2 now. The last one I have is because it's unlike anything I've ever read, and that's Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. This is a historical dark pirate romance, and our main character is actually a pirate herself. She, Bennett, kind of grew up with her mother trying to get her to be like a lady, and then something happens with her father, who is a notorious pirate, and she ends up taking over the ship and being a pirate captain. It fast forwarded quite a few years, and she has a husband who she hasn't spoken to in 2 years because he betrayed her, and he's back, and she kind of like toys with him and doesn't let him back in, and then she's actually kidnapped by the Commodore, who is a pirate hunter, and she kind of falls for the pirate hunter, but she still has her husband, and things just are wild in here, and it's very dark. So she does get sexually assaulted and just plain old assaulted in here. Like, she gets beat up pretty badly a lot because she is a pirate, and pirates are really looked down upon. Obviously, they're trying to kidnap her to kill her. So I really enjoyed this, though. There is one scene dealing with consent that made me give it a 4-star because I did not enjoy the non-consensual act between her and one of her love interests. But other than that, you really didn't know where the romance was going to go. You didn't know if she's going to be with Ashley, the Commodore, or go back and forgive her husband. And she had insane chemistry with both of them. And the Commodore was like, I shouldn't be liking you because my whole job is to kill you and kidnap you. So I really like this. It was definitely a wild ride and historical, so I would definitely recommend this. Let me know down below the wildest romances you've read, whether they're just super out there, they have wild plots, characters, something that hasn't really been done before. I would really love to hear, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.